certifying 6 initiatives last year, doing several recounts, including the beginning of the statewide recount, assisting me in drafting ballot questions, doing all the layout for every single ballot. The 350 ballot styles is actually a reduction. We used to do over 600. Because you think about Senator Mason's Senate district, he doesn't get one ballot, he gets several ballots because there's other House members, there are county commissioners, different districts, and we oversee that process, and we do it pretty well. And these same people do it all. So, understanding that in the context of your question, we know what we have to do now as we begin to explore the implementation of ranked choice voting. What that will take for resources right now is going to really require more ideas than people, because like I say, the part that I keep turning over in my head is the recount provision, how we would do recounts. We may have to think about recounts in an entirely different way. And at that juncture, I think when we get to next year, January 1st, we're supposed to be ready to implement ranked choice voting. Of course, that won't really matter to anyone until the June primaries. But I think by that time, we'll have a much better idea of what our resource needs will be if they're any different from what they are now. And I think at that point, we can come to you with a lot of confidence in what our request would be for a supplemental budget in the future.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Breen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Hubbell's questions answered mine. Thanks.
Oh, wasn't that convenient? Representative Tepler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I do have a little follow-up on Representative Hubbell's question. Mr. Secretary, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I can't claim responsibility, but thank you. I would like to think again about what the first election you might deal with in terms of ranked choice voting would be. And it's unclear to me about whether or not the new provisions apply to local elections.
They do not.
They do not. Okay, so they only apply to statewide positions. Do they apply to county commissioner elections?
No.
No. Okay, well that probably solves. So the first election you would be dealing with then is the June primary.
That is correct.
Okay.
So and I think one of the things that's maybe goes without saying is that the questions that are now pending before the law court are peculiar to state elections, because our Constitution does not contemplate federal elections. So, what ranked choice voting affects is state and federal elections. So people running for state office and federal office. I got that right.
Okay. Good job. Thank you. I think that's clear enough. Thank you.
Representative Casas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Maybe not appropriate now, but during work session, could you provide us with the information of how many municipalities do their elections in the older style that wouldn't be as conducive with the ranked choice voting, and what it would cost for us to upgrade them?
I believe it's 240. 240 towns are hand count towns, correct? Yes. Hand count towns. And so, we right now, our DS200 tabulating machine that we lease from Election Systems and Software, because the technology changes fast enough now, we decided not to buy them. So we're on a lease. I'm not sure, and I think we'd actually have difficulty under our contract extending it to that size. Is that correct, Julie? Julie says I'm right. So, that would be, we'd have to kind of start over on that. And, that's come up as a question because of the nature of the law, which anticipates that the Secretary of State does the rankings, does the full tabulation. The Constitution describes it differently, that the tabulation of the vote is conducted by the officials of the several cities, towns, and plantations. So that's a significant change. So if we were to do it, it seemed to make sense to do it, have everybody have a tabulating machine, but that would be expensive and it would be a contract issue for us. But we'd probably want to cross that bridge when we got to it.
Any other questions for the Secretary of State? Thank you very much.
Thank you for your attention.
Anybody here from the Department of Public Safety?